Welcome to the 2014 BYU Football Media Day. You're watching the live web chats. I'm Lauren Frankham. We're going to start off the morning with Leon White and Trevor Matich from the 1984 National Championship team, followed by James Dye. Right after them from the 96 Cotton Bowl team, we're going to finish off the hour with Dennis Pitta, current player for the Baltimore Ravens. After that, it's going to be State of the Program at 9 o'clock, BYU Sports Nation from 10 to 12, and then BYU Football Greatest Moments then and now at 1 o'clock. In between there, we're going to have some more web chats with some coaches and players. But first, let's get to these guys right in front of me, Leon White and Trevor Matich. Thank you so much for being here with us.
It's great to be with you, Lauren.
Thanks for
Good.
Yes.
1984, national champions. It's been 30 years.
No,
How does that feel?
No, it's been 12 years. That's it. There's a time warp, and science fiction has intervened in our minds, so it works for us.
Hey, neither of you look that old if it's, you know.
Well, Leon kind of does,
You
don't
bet.
you think?
Well,
He's got a little more gray, but he's still looking good.
if I was shaved, I'd look even younger.
I better be careful. He'll light me up like he used to do in practice. I got to watch out.
Yeah, both of you had some time in the NFL. Leon, you were the defensive MVP for the Holiday Bowl. I heard something happened to that trophy of yours, though. Can you tell me that story?
Well, trophy that we had got dropped.
How'd that happen?
Somebody couldn't hold on to it. I guess the hands were a little slippery at the time.
Oh,
Wait a
no.
minute. Our trophy? The 84 trophy somebody dropped?
Yeah.
This is the first 12 years have passed, and I'm just hearing this now. What happened to it? Did it break?
No, it didn't break.
Okay,
It didn't break.
good.
It's still
I'm like,
functional.
I should have been traumatized for the last 30 years. Instead, I'm just traumatized now.
Trevor, you are a current ESPN college football analyst. This generation might not know a lot about your guys' style of play. They probably haven't watched a lot of footage from the 1984 team. What do you remember about Leon's game?
Leon White was one of the most violent human beings I've ever been associated with. And he did it with that smile right there, right? He'd be smiling before the play, and then he would light you up in a way that is a felony in every country in the world. And then he'd smile just like that, help you back up. Hey, that was fun. Not for me. And so I remember on the sidelines, whenever an opposing team would start a screen pass, I'd poke the guy next to me and say, watch this. Because if it went to Leon's side, Leon would light that guy up like a guided missile. And literally every time you would see his shoulder pads rise up, and I was waiting to see if they come completely off his body. Did you ever knock somebody's shoulder pads completely off their body?
No, just the helmet.
Just the helmet?
Yeah.
That's enough. That'll work. But Leon as a violent, crushing, intimidating hitter, I think that was what I remember from you.
That's nice of you. I like that.
Leon, what do you remember about Trevor?
Trevor, he was a technician, very smart on the field, and he studied the game like anybody I know, and he knew exactly what was going on with the defense. We couldn't fool him. We couldn't fool him in practice, and none of the players could fool him on the other team. I mean, he was just a great lineman, and that's why he was a first rounder.
You guys had a really special team in 1984. You were quoted as saying maybe not the most talented team, but you guys had just this great dynamic that made you that good. Why do you think that is? What created that dynamic?
Well, the friendships we had on and off the field, the guys were always together. We had a great second team that was just as good to play as the first team starters. And I think that helped us a lot down the road when times were getting tough and guys were getting tired at the end of the season. We had guys that could come in and replace. Blaine Fowler, for instance, he came in and replaced Robbie for those few plays in the third quarter in that championship game. And we didn't miss a beat. So
Blaine was an unsung hero. A lot of unsung heroes on that team. He was a sung hero. So I disagree, though, with the people who say that we weren't talented. Because when the new BYU facility opened a number of years ago, the first time I visited, they had a DVD running in a loop of highlights of that 1984 season. And I owned that DVD, but I'd never watched it. It was the first time I'd seen it many years later. But now I had played 12 years in the NFL, and now I was a football analyst, NFL and college. So I looked at it from the eyes of an analyst, not just as a former player watching us play. And we were good. I mean, that defense, you'd see that defensive line with low pad level, driving forward, changing that line of scrimmage. You see the linebackers flying downhill. When they hit, it shocked opposing ball carriers. You saw an active secondary. You saw a lot of guys from that defense went on to play in the NFL. On the offensive side, all 5 offensive linemen were in NFL training camps. And so you had a solid offensive line, fast guys on the perimeter, and a quarterback who was as good as any quarterback that's ever played here. And so I think our talent that year is underrated because our camaraderie and our chemistry was so good.
Yeah, a lot of talent that year. So there might have been, what are some things that you guys learned from winning that national championship that a lot of people may not know?
Leon, I don't know about you, but when we won that, my overriding feeling was relief. It was just such a relief. It's okay. It was like everything's going crazy around us there in San Diego, and it's like, okay, good. We did it. Yeah. We'll be number one. No one can ever take this away. And I remember the first thing I did was I went to the scout team guys, and I thanked them because they never got on the field, but they made life miserable for us in practice. And that's one of the reasons I think we went on to win it all. And then the second thing I thought was I looked at you guys, and I thought, this is a moment that we will have forever. And Leon, I haven't seen you for decades, right? But seeing each other now, it's like we've never been apart. It's like we've always lived next door. And that is because of the emotional connection you have with suffering through an entire season together for a goal that in its own world is so important. And achieving that goal, and at that moment of winning it, there was a relief that we had done it and an understanding that now we have forever.
Yes. I always felt, and I learned from that experience, that winning a championship, you have to have chemistry. And it's something that most teams don't have, and you have to build it. And we build it throughout the year. And it's hard to do, but when you do it, it comes out like it did for us in 1984. Championship was won, and the friendships that we had from that building of a champion, they last forever.
And thank goodness that I only had to face Leon in practice. Leon played 8 years in the NFL. Keep this in mind. The average NFL career is 3.5 years.
Yeah.
He played 8 years in one of the most physical positions in the league, linebacker. And so we had that going for us. And that's one of those things when you talk about talent. Chemistry and camaraderie was good, but with guys like Leon flying around, we were better than the other guy most of the time.
I mean, to win a national championship, you got to have some talent, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit.
It can't just be chemistry. You got to have some talent.
And you have to have a little luck too. I mean, we can look back on that. We could see the miracles pile up, and there were more than a few miracles too.
So there were a lot of miracles. You guys have so much chemistry, so much talent. What's it like coming back to Provo and even seeing LaVell Edwards Stadium after 30 years, having all those memories? What's that like?
At first when I came back, people would like pat you on the back. Hey, national championship, great job. As the years go by, people that memory for them fades. It doesn't fade for us.
Yeah.
Now for me coming back, it's this sense of satisfaction. It's okay. This place was so wonderful to us, and just being here now. Nobody here understands the run that we went on back in the day in ancient history, but we still know. We still know, and that still is important to us, and that's one of the feelings that I get just looking around. Nobody knows, nobody remembers, that's young here.
Yeah.
And that's okay because it was our run, it was our time.
What about you, Liam?
Oh, guys, just driving by the stadium, I could still hear the fans screaming and roaring. This was such a great place to play. Every week we had 60,000, and the community was such a big part of that championship. That's what makes me happy and feel good about coming back.
We're coming up on the 50th anniversary for LaVell Edwards Stadium. Trevor, we'll start with you. What is your greatest memory there in that stadium?
Well, every time we beat Utah there, but that was pretty much every year. In the 4 years I played here, we were 4-0 against Utah. Now, I respect Utah a lot, but people ask me, what's it like to lose to your greatest rival? And I have to tell you, I have no idea. We didn't.
I don't know that feeling.
Yeah, back then. Now again, Utah, they've done a lot of great things. But I think my greatest memory isn't even of a moment in a game. My greatest memory is every pregame I would go out early before everybody else, and I would sit in the corner of the end zone and just stretch and just take it all in. And you look up over the top of the stadium, and you can see the snow-capped peaks up there, and in the corners the big blue BYU banners waving in the breeze. And there's just feeling of serenity and beauty that was there. And then the first few opponents would come out from the opposite corner and start to warm up. And this feeling of rage would come over me. Like, how dare you even be here? Now, I knew in my mind that they had to be here. They had a football game to play.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I was so furious that they would even show up here, right? and that memory is one of the overriding ones, is that rage that they would even set foot on our field.
Yeah,
What about you?
that's for sure. That was scary for most of the guys that stepped in the field. I'd have to say I'm from San Diego, and just having San Diego State come out here and play against them and show them, how wonderful Utah is, but how tough and great our teams were. And playing in that stadium against San Diego State was my biggest thrill, because we always beat them, And I had bragging rights when I went back home. It was great. So
That's important, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
Bragging
like,
rights.
it's big.
Well, you're from California as well, right?
Yes, I am. I'm from Sacramento.
So,
I didn't surf as much as Leon growing up. We had rivers and lakes. We didn't have the ocean. So
dang, you need to learn how.
I
Or have you
know.
learned how?
Well, Leon's going to teach me to surf.
Okay, there you go,
Body
Leon.
surf. That's about it.
I don't know. I'll get in the ocean and there'll be like a tsunami somewhere else.
Nah. So, Leon, one of my favorite stories that I heard about you is you came here, really hard time adjusting to the snow, and you put on your cleats one day to go to class. Tell us kind of that story. Where
Oh gosh, who told you that one? Wow. Must have been Linnell.
I have a lot of little golden nuggets.
Yeah, I
Of
remember
knowledge.
my first snow here in Utah, and coming from San Diego, never saw anything like it. You know, I was fresh out of the water in that case, and I slipped on the way to class, and I said, "Wow, I can't even get up this hill. I can't even go to class." So I ran back to my dorm, got my turf cleats that had little nubs on them, and I put them on and made it to class.
That's a great story. I
The
didn't
only
know
way I
that.
could find.
I mean, did anyone give you any weird looks, or
Well, yeah, when I was on the
they're
ground,
probably, they're probably scared of you because you're on the football team number one, so they're not going to say anything. But
mostly laughs. They were laughing when I was on the ground.
That was, yeah, well, when there was ice, because they couldn't catch you. Come springtime, I'll bet they weren't laughing much. Because now you've got traction.
Exactly.
Trevor, you came from California too. Did you have a rough time adjusting at all?
No,
coming to Provo?
I wasn't as smart as Leon. You know, I'm just sitting here listening to you thinking I should have had those nubby shoes in my dorm room too. I didn't. I just had regular shoes, and I would slip and fall. And when I fell, I would fall hard. I'm surprised I didn't get hurt and miss a year doing that. But I didn't even think to put football shoes in there that on an icy day I could do that. So, of course, you know, I still made it to class
You
occasionally.
made it to class, yes. You did fine.
So a lot of guys compare you guys to the 1996 Cotton Bowl team, the 1984 team to the 1996. If you guys went head to head, who do you think would win?
We'd annihilate them.
Really?
Yeah,
How
they
come?
would- well, because one thing, they wouldn't score. And I think our average touchdown drive was like a minute and a half. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'm talking smack, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm talking. That was a really good team too. And again, as we sent a lot of guys to the NFL, and it accelerated from there. And I think the recruiting was such that there was a lot of NFL talent on that team as well. And so I think it'd be a pretty good fight. As a matter of fact, we probably should have a ping pong tournament with them just to settle it, right?
Yeah, maybe just do ping pong. I think that'll determine on the football field.
Oh, they have the years on us, so I don't know.
We'll say if you guys were in your prime, who would win? What do you think?
It would be a great game, you know. Both teams had great offenses, and like Trevor said, our defense, we were one of the best defenses, I think, overall that BYU's ever seen. So it would be an exciting game, maybe a low-scoring game.
Yeah. But it's the trash talk that's the fun.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
We
why
have
you have
James
to win.
Dye coming up next too. So
Yeah.
trash talk away. I'm going to relay the
Yeah, well,
information.
he'll do his trash talk, but the difference is that we're correct in ours, and he won't. Be. Whatever he says, he'll be incorrect. Yeah.
So you guys, you mentioned you had a great defense back then. BYU in the last few years it's been about their defense.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Where for some years it was the quarterback factory, and these last few years it's been all about the defense.
I love seeing Bronco and his defenses. They've really performed well. I'm a linebacker, so I like to watch the linebackers. Keel, when he was here, and Van Noy, I'm excited to see him in the NFL. Those are great players here, and they did a lot of great things for BYU's defense. So I think they're only going to get better.
What's it like for you seeing that?
You know, I've in the last several years, this defense has been historically good. One of the best defensive runs that this school has had ever. And the problem is that they've had issues on offense where they weren't able to push the ball down the field with deep passing. And whether it was quarterback or receivers or protection or what the issue was, they weren't scoring enough points to support that defense because that defense was good enough to be a BCS caliber defense. And so I think what they've done now with recruiting this year, I expect BYU's passing game, their downfield passing game, to be much better this year than it has in recent years and finally give that defense the points to complement what they're doing. And I think that synergy is something that when it comes together, it's going to be pretty.
Okay. Well, it's been so great having you guys here and having you here back in Provo. We're excited to see you on the show coming up, Best Moments of BYU Football. Make sure you remember to join the conversation using Twitter, #BYU Media Day. Coming up next, we have James Dye from the '96 Cotton Bowl team. Stay tuned.